Greetings, good afternoon. How are we? It's been a while, but happy to be back with another Inspire and Be Inspired, our motivational conversation and life hacks live stream. Fairly certain everyone knows what's going on, but in case you weren't aware, my name is Andy Ward, and this is something that I've been doing for a few months now on a Tuesday evening. We put it on hold for the small matter of a few football matches, and now that's all behind us. We are getting back with our Tuesday evening live streams, conversations, interviews, amongst many other things. This evening, I am very, very happy to be joined by a gentleman. You will have seen me promoting him as, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most inspirational gentlemen that I've had the pleasure of meeting in the music world. And as always, I apprehensively press this button and hope to bring my guest live onto the stream. And it works.
Hello.
Fantastic. Jason Allner, aka Doobie J, welcome along to Inspire and Be Inspired. How are you, man?
Cheers, Andy. Yeah, pretty good, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I am seeing that we've got people already leaving us some likes and some shares. For some reason, and I had this issue before. I've got my screen set up where I was able to see the comments live, but for some reason they're not actually working now. So if you just bear with me 1 second, let me see
Sure.
if I can pop out these comments here, and move them across to in front of my screen. Then it saves me having to keep bouncing from window to window, and it's all working fine. um, he says, so everybody that's watching live, please bear with me. There we go, that's great. um, so that's all working. Everybody can still see me, you can still see and hear me. Key frame rate too high. Okay, I don't know what that's talking about, but it doesn't matter. So, back. I'm here. You can see me, I can see the comments. So let me begin by saying hello to Cassandra, to Andrea. These are some of these people that you will know very well. So Cassandra Barnett, Andrew McHugh, Bobby Peartree, Malcolm We Love, to Ali and Nick, and to Joanne Hill. They are all saying hi, and we've got a fair few people watching us live. So feel free, guys, to comment and leave your messages or any questions as the conversation progresses. Hi to the Tomlinsons as well. Hi to Lynn Henson. Michelle Ward sends a wave. You might have heard of that lady. As does Katie Secure, Leanne Collins, and everybody else. Keep saying hi, guys, and I will give you shout outs. You know what we're doing. We're here to have a conversation. So, first of all, how do you prefer to be addressed?
Doobie,
Not like that.
yeah, right. Oh dear, sorry about that. It's a great start. Doobie is
Doobie.
fine. Yeah, I tend to get called that a lot now on the scene.
Okay, so we'll get to how you were christened with that name. Still saying hi is Rosemary Mason, as is Jane Boy. Thank you everybody for being here. We truly appreciate it. Everyone's laughing at that sound. What was that? A motorbike in outside?
Kids,
Something going on.
kids up and down. Yeah,
Okay, so Doobie, your government name is Jason Allner. Am I pronouncing that correct?
that's correct. Yeah,
Okay, so when and where were you born?
I was born in Aldershot. It's
Okay.
a military town, southeast Surrey. Um, or Hampshire. I think it's right on the border, but basically southeast England.
Okay, and what year were you born?
I was born in 1980.
Okay, so not necessarily a young pup anymore, but still young enough to get away with one or two things. Born at a very good time, actually, 1980. Just at the beginning, the boom of the tech rise and the yuppie period, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
I
where?
do. I feel like I did miss out on the old Summer of Love, the M25 parties. I was just a little bit too young to get involved in that early
What
rave scene.
you weren't banging to the poppers at 8 years of age?
No, I wasn't. But I've heard so many great stories from veteran clubbers who were there doing it, you know, when it was happening, when this massive cultural change was happening in the UK, which is obviously we've all been inspired by and a big part of our lives now.
The mad thing is, we were all too busy enjoying it when it was happening to really appreciate exactly what was going on. But there was one moment of reality when they had the freedom to. I can't even think what it was now. The freedom to dance marches down in London when they brought the criminal justice bill in or whatever it was.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, repetitive beats and all that. So that was the only time I really paid much attention to all of that. Okay, so very quickly, your family life, brothers and sisters, mum and dads.
Yeah, mum and dad separated when I was about 14. But yeah, still see them. A sister, 3 years younger than me.
Okay, wonderful. So Aldershot, is it? It's famously a military town. Is it well to do, or is it kind of rough and ready, or is there a balance?
It's a bit rough and ready, to be honest with you. I used to work in Aldershot, just part time at the Tesco's when I was a teenager. And Friday, Saturday nights, a lot of squaddies out. Wasn't somewhere you necessarily wanted to be spending your evening if you were, well, perhaps not, you know, with soldiers in the army.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, you know, quite tight knit group, I suppose. But yeah, around the area, there were the clubs that I used to frequent as I started getting into it all. But yeah,
Cool. So tell us about your formative years in school, 12, 13, 14, things that immediately spring to mind. So we're talking about 93, 94 kind of era.
yeah, 94, 95. It was the big rave era in the UK. The bomber jackets with all the, you know, insignia on the back, whether it was, you know, your Helter Skelters or your NASA's or whatever. Yeah, the spliffy jackets. I'm sure you remember them as a
Uh-huh.
kind of a movement for a while. The fashion, the kickers, you know, all of that. But it was something I wasn't part of, and I would hear about these raves from friends at school, but the hardcore thing, it wasn't really something that interested me
No.
that much.
What were
And
you in,
then,
what were you into then? What school disco?
well,
What were your school discos like?
I'll be honest with you. I was into R&B and
Okay.
swing. I got into that kind of thing, but I was still trying to find my. I don't know if I was even trying to find my number, kind of genre of passion. I was just yeah, you know, interested in music to a very small degree.
Mm-hmm.
There was an album, you know, you'd swap CDs and what have you at school back in the day. You know, this is very unfamiliar territory for our millennial listeners, I'm sure. But yeah, CDs, swapping them at school. And then one particular CD compilation I borrowed was Fantasia Free,
Okay.
which you know, a lot of our listeners will know is you know, one of those early club promoters, and they were putting out the compilations, which was, you know, a kind of mixture really of house and what we might call tech house, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, all of that kind of, it was finding its feet back then, house music, before it, you know, it was kind of segmented up into the genres. And that Fantasia 3 album I took home, listened to, and it was the first time that I really started to listen to underground electronic music.
Right. Okay. So I'm assuming Ali and Nick may be friends of yours. They're
Mm.
mentioning World Dance. Colin, hi Carl. He says World Dance Biology Energy 2000 AD. The list is endless. We could go on.
Yeah,
But to me,
yeah.
that seems a little bit earlier than 94, 95, because I have a very vivid memory of 94, 95. I was already doing, playing Masters at Work kind of sounds
Oh,
at a place called Marco Polo. So for me, that era is more 91, 92, 93. Does that sound about right?
Right.
Or,
Well, if it was, then it was around about 93, 94 when I went to secondary school that
okay.
I became aware of the fashion,
Hmm.
and having no idea about any of these brands, I was then becoming conscious of something that clearly, as you say, had been going on for 2 or 3 years before
Yeah.
I
Oh well,
became aware of the hardcore
it did
scene.
actually go on for it went on for a long, long time.
Right.
So yeah, it's very difficult for me to not try and put my timeline onto yours. So
Mm.
that's how I try and reference it. So you say R&B, names that spring to mind. What
It's
kind of R&B? You're a bit of a lover or more
yeah, if you
grimy
like,
stuff?
yeah. It was the pure swing albums.
Wonderful. Well, I have such fond memories of Pure Swing '96 because at the time I was working for Choice FM in Birmingham doing overnights. I was an overnight guy, and I used to have to select the music and then play the. I'm giving away all the trade secrets here. Play the intros and the voiceovers that the DJs had prepared in the daytime. So it sounded like the DJ was live, and it was me playing their voice and then playing the CDs. So all that era of music, I've got a real fond not affiliation, a love for that kind of sound.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It had those elements of soul and funk that very apparent today with the kind of the sound that my signature kind of house sound.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got one, yeah, your Teddy O'Reilly's, Blackstreet, Bobby Brown. The ladies were doing it very
Keith
well.
Sweat, Adina Howard,
God,
names that jump into
um,
my mind.
Shanae, massive fan of that. I mean, Hey Mr. DJ, that was
Mm-hmm.
a very influential record. You had early Beverly Knight. Do you remember Eternal?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And
Yeah,
do you have any recordings of when you actually did you used to do mixtapes for the ladies and stuff like that?
none of that, none of that. I was literally just buying tapes, our price when it was still existed,
Hmm.
and just listening to the music, collecting the music. But it was that Fantasia collection that then started to make me really get into electronic music and realize that there was another sort of style or genre that wasn't hardcore, that was slower,
Hmm.
and for me just something that I don't know, I could get into more.
Okay, and going out drinking at an early age, or was that a big no-no for you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, God, if we can get
The normal
a
rites
mate,
of passage for all of us, right?
well, around about 14, 15, you're curious about um, alcohol or whatever. And we had a friend who could just about manage to grow a little bit of stubble, and he would get a set of car keys and try and do the whole blag at the off license to get us the cans or whatever in.
A proper scene out of the in-betweeners.
So yeah, I mean exactly. I mean, a lot of our listeners will kind of relate to those days when you were too young to get in the clubs, and parents were at home, so you used to have to kind of hang out on the streets a bit,
Hmm.
where it was the park, whatever. Yeah, the Walkmans, the you know, listening to the music where you could, the alcohol drinking or whatever, a part of youth culture kind of came hand in hand with it back then.
Hmm.
Here it's all lattes and I don't know, Starbucks these days, but that's what we were doing in the 90s. I mean, you must be able to relate to that somewhat.
Most definitely, it was a little bit tougher on the streets about. Well, actually, no, I wouldn't say it was a little bit tougher, but the same old. As I say, rites of passage. It doesn't matter whether you were born in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It's all pretty much the same. We've all got the same diaries. If you open them, read them, everyone's doing the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what? So the first when you say Fantasia and that CD pricked your ears up, so to speak. Who would have been the first DJ that you heard technically or got to what? Okay, so let's the first club that you went to and you were like stood in awe at a DJ. Could you drag something like that from your memory?
Oh yeah. I mean, prior to that, it was prior to to clubbing, I think that there was years that I really that really kind of shaped, my love for house music, for dance music in general. Was well, I remember the other album that really was the game changer, I think, was Fantasia House Collection 3.
Okay.
So obviously I was aware of Fantasia. I went out to our price as a sale, whatever it was back then, and picked myself up a CD, House Collection 3, Jeremy Healy, Alistair Whitehead. And I think it was the Alistair Whitehead side that I was most interested in, that big kind of US garage sound, big soulful vocals, strings, is just live instrumentation, the kind of influences from the disco era, which little did I know, much about back then. And that for me was started to generate my interest in the journey that these mixes can take you on.
Okay.
And how technically is it possible to mix one record from another. So then round about 96, I met a guy when I was at college who was selling his decks and offered to sell them to me. So
Okay.
I picked up the decks.
Let me see if I can very crudely bring in a picture that you have shared with me. Now, this probably is going to go out. Everyone, bear with me while I sort this out. Image. Okay. Jay sent me some pictures through earlier, and I mean, this is. Here we go.
Larking about. Oh dear, yeah. I mean, they were belt driven. So our DJ peers will be able to relate to that. It's a elastic ribbon essentially that. Wow, they're not easy to mix on when you first start, as you probably know, Andy. And
well, I looked at them at first and I thought, oh, they're Technics, and then I saw the phonos into the back and I thought, no, they're clearly not Technics at all.
No, I didn't. Oh, I didn't touch Technics till I was 18 years old. But the belt drivens, I owned them. Were a pretty crappy cam mixer. I didn't have a clue how to mix, obviously, for a long time. But I had the records. I had the turntables. I started getting the records, and the big advantage, I have to say, was that my dad had to be up in an office for a 9 a.m. meeting on Mondays in Chester, I think it was. Yeah. So every Sunday he would leave on a Sunday, so he'd stay overnight the night before to beat the rush hour traffic come Monday morning, which meant that Sunday nights my house was free.
Okay.
Like, my parents had split by then in around 96, 97. I had the decks. I had a lot of friends that were keen to party, and I had the venue to do it.
Right.
So
where's this picture here? Is this your house?
That's not actually. That was a little bit later on. You do have a few others that, is my house. And if you want to pull up the one with the curtains in the background.
Let me have a look. The red curtains.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
My dad's. So that was my room. I mean, didn't even have a table at that point. But there were there's another photo as well. I think there's 3 of us in it. You've got the decks on a pretty crude 70s looking coffee table.
I got it.
You got it. Yeah. See, right. Okay. So I remember this, Eve. I remember this photo specifically from after having these parties on Sundays. My dad was obviously finding out, when you're playing crazy golf in the house or whatever was going on. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah. And, have girls over and whatever. And obviously, drinking, music. I was really on the decks a lot, mostly. For me, hosting the parties and playing the music for everybody was really kind of my focus. But my dad was finding out, obviously, that I'm having these parties. So when he then says he's going to go away with his girlfriend at the time for 2 weeks on a holiday, it was a big opportunity, but there was no way he was going to let me be staying in the house while he was away. So he locked all the doors and windows. So everyone's saying to me, whereas normally what I would have to do is climb up the tree, climb across the roof, stick my hand through the top window of my bedroom, open the side window, and we're in. But that 2 week break, he wasn't going to take any chances. So every door and window was going to be sealed, and I knew it. So I had to figure out how could I get in.
So
And then
I'm sorry, I may have missed it. So were you living with your mum at the time, or you had your own flat?
I, I was living with my dad.
Okay, so but he locked you out.
Yeah, he was going to. He said to me, "Look, you're going to be staying at your mum's for 2 weeks.
Okay, right.
There's
I
no way
missed
you're
that.
staying here."
I missed that bit. I didn't know whether you said that or I
Yeah,
just missed it. Okay,
yeah.
that clears that up. Okay, thanks.
But I conjured up a plan, which I still think to this day wasn't too shabby, which was to, when I got home from college that afternoon, about 4 o'clock, the afternoon before he was due to leave, made a big plate of sandwiches, got my Walkman. Then around about 5:30, he's home from work. I slide under the bed and I just lay there. And he came up, cleans out my room. I remember him saying, "Stinks of fags in here." And he's got the vacuum. He's vacuuming under the bed. I'm having to try and dodge it, and I'm just lying there under this single bed. And then eventually he goes to sleep. I lay under that bed for 11 hours. Nearly 5 a.m. I can hear him getting up, some movement, and then I can hear the car engine starting to drive, and then he drove out, and I slid out and unlocked all the doors and windows. And I
Amazing.
don't think he'll be too happy about me telling this story, but he didn't even know how I did it. He never knew. The reason the curtains are closed there is because I figured, well, if I keep the curtains closed for the 2 weeks, then none of the neighbours are going to see any of us in there. But I mean, the amount of people coming in and out of the house, I mean, every other night, if not every night, was going to give the game away, and I got
Brilliant.
busted again, whatever. It was a big. It was those special days, those early parties that kind of really shaped my love
Well,
of the whole kind of party
I've
scene,
I've got to say, mate, this is one of the busiest live streams that we've had. People are here. I'll just take a second. I don't think I said hi to Carla. Steve takes a word out of my mouth and says legend. Who else has popped in that I said? Everyone else is commenting. Thank you very much. Jane Harrington is here. Hi, Jane. Dave Broadbent as well, saying he'd love to see Alistair Whitehead at VB. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of playing several times with Alistair, so I have been in conversation with him. Nick Gall Thomason as well, so it's Dreamscape. I'm not sure if Nick's a friend of yours, and anyone else I may have missed. Just to obviously repeat, we're deep in conversation, so forgive me if I don't get to your comments immediately, but I am reading them all and we will say hi as we do that, so thank you guys. Right, so the party, was it a legendary party?
I mean, the 2 weeks, yeah, I mean, they were great,
Well, I say
obviously.
party, session, weekender. So you invented the weekenders before weekenders.
Yeah, well, you had a load of 17, nearly 18-year-olds with a place that we could hang out for 2 weeks. And yeah, kind of the party sort of thing is where I would get a chance to DJ, and I did get better, and I did learn obviously how to mix, and then I was doing the demo tapes for anyone that was willing to listen to them. I mean, they used to get chucked out of my friends' cars at first. The mixing was that bad, but yeah, slowly but surely, yeah, I started to kind of shape a serious kind of sound, that I was going for when I was going into the record.
Can you remember off the top of your head some of your artists or labels that you would have been
Mm,
mixing back then?
Sure, you remember Manifesto? You had AMPM, obviously, and that sold. What's his name's first label, wasn't it? Defected.
Domos, yeah.
John. Yeah. God, what else was there back then? You had obviously you had
Well,
Nervous.
there was a lot, and then on that UK sound, stress, things like that. But I'm sure
Yeah,
you could
Slip and Slide.
drag a load of them. And the thing that annoys me is, I've said it several times on my radio show. When I moved to Spain, I actually got rid of quite a few thousand records, and all of those, I suppose you'd call them UK sounding tracks that at the time, because when we moved, I was so deeply into the US sound. I just said, no, I haven't got the space. I got rid of them. I'm pretty disappointed, really, because that's a big part of my own history as well. That early sound before I actually really honed my sound, so to speak. So yeah, there's a huge catalogue of artists that you would have been listening to. So that was what you were putting together then yourself. Janie's saying, how did you clear up the house without your dad knowing? Or she's saying, did you clear up the house without your dad knowing?
You know what? I mean, I was even so stupid to think I could use super glue to fit back together the pieces of a broken chandelier. Like it was just, yeah. I don't know what else did we have? Cigarette butt stains in the carpet. I used to try and cut them out with scissors. That wasn't really working too well either.
Well, I
Yeah.
guarantee on that electric fire, I bet loads of people were lighting cigarettes off that fire as well, and you get like the little ash burn on there. So you
Yeah, there
taking me
are a
right
lot of
back,
stories, no
taking me
doubt.
right back. A can of Carlsberg I can see on the table as well.
Yeah. The house was a right old state. Most mornings after, but my mate had a Dyson. It was the first time that Dysons had come out. It was this new technology, and I'd borrow that, and well, yeah, seemed to get the job done on the carpet a little bit, but
And the
always.
old on the photograph, the I can't even think what it's called now. What were those white rugs called? Afghan rugs, or
Do you know
I
what? I
can't
think
even
that was
remember.
supposed to be sort of fake sheepskin, if I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us then. We can sit and reminisce all night long about these. Tell us some key moments as life progressed then from your late teens into your 20s. Actually, before we do that, I have one other photo that I wanted to show. This I thought this was amazing. You stood there. Where was this taken?
That was 98. That was the summer before I went off to uni.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and I took my decks with me. I had a small bedsit at uni. I went to Cheltenham to
Okay.
study there. I was in halls of residence, as I say, small room, and had a set of drawers, had a study desk, and a bed, pretty basic accommodation. But the study desk, I mean, that was for the decks. I would do my work on the drawers. Yeah, cleared that out straight away and put the decks on there. And yeah, that was where I did a demo tape. And took a punt, sent it off to one of the local clubs there in Cheltenham, which was Time at the time, and I just couldn't believe it when they got back to me and were interested. Now it wouldn't have been by email, it wouldn't have been mobile. I can't remember how they got in contact, but
Facts.
yeah, the manager called me in and asked me if I was interested in playing.
Brilliant. So what night would that have been?
That was Thursday nights.
Uh
It
huh.
was called Garage. What was it called? Garage. It was Garage Night, something like that. When Garage was kind of more like that US sound.
Uh huh. Okay.
Hmm.
And did you get a residency there, or a one off gig?
Yeah, Thursday nights. Yeah.
Oh right. Okay.
And this was a student town. It was when people used to go out clubbing, a lot more during the week. And yeah, had busy dance floors. And it was just I just set my love for the whole house music scene on fire. Yeah, I was even starting to think crazy, like if this took off, then I would quit uni for it. I never told anyone that. I didn't tell my parents that. That's for sure. But sadly, it didn't get that far anyway, because then in August '99, on the summer holidays, went away with my old school friends, and we were out in Mallorca when I fell in the swimming pool, fell in at the shallow end and hit my head, which is how I broke my neck.
Okay, so you actually you broke your neck. Tell us briefly actually what what happened, kind of the scenario of
Yeah,
what that meant for your body.
yeah. I mean, as soon as I hit my head there on the shallow end, I was face down in the pool, and obviously I would have, come up for air had I been able to. But instantly, I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't really move my arms very properly, and I was just holding my breath and desperately trying to get my head out of the water, but I couldn't. And just as I started to run out of air, I thought, well, this is it. This is how I'm going to die. I'm going to swallow water and drown. And then I felt an arm come around my neck and pull me out, pull me up to the side, and it was my friend Phil, who incidentally is in that very photo there. School friend since 14, and still, best buds to this day. I was his best man for his wedding, and we still see each other frequently.
So that was
Some,
August 1990. You went literally overnight from being. I'm sure you won't mind me saying, because we are very of the same build. A strapping streak of piss to going away on holiday, and then your life changing. So tell us how how long you had to stay in Mallorca for, and when you came back, to tell us as briefly or
yeah,
as in depth as you like how it progressed then.
sure. I was in the Spanish hospital for 2 days. They operated on me, and then I was flown back by air ambulance, and then flown back to Salisbury Spinal Unit, where I spent, I think it was about a month in intensive care on a ventilator. So I was completely unable to breathe for myself. I was I was sort of kind of so jacked up on morphine that I didn't know much about what was going on until I started to come off of that in the intensive care, and coming off of that was horrific. I had really terrible hallucinations. Um, but yeah, and then the kind of reality starts to kick in, and it's all a bit difficult to understand the implications of what's happened. The physical implications. The notion that I was going to walk again was inconceivable. I couldn't bear to believe that,
Mm-hmm.
but inevitably, my spinal consultant had to tell me when I was asking, very directly about that, and yeah, it's a very very hard thing to accept. Having, as you say, gone from being fully independent at the age of 19, looking forward to who knows what. Yeah, just like so much of life and opportunities ahead to live for. I couldn't see. I really couldn't. I was struggling. Yeah, obviously for many months mentally um, after that.
Okay. At what point did you? At what point do you recall that your thinking changed, and you thought, right, no, because clearly somewhere down the line you thought, right, no, I've got to tackle this.
Yeah, it wasn't overnight. It wasn't any particular thing that happened. It was a slow, gradual progress as I weaned off of the ventilator, and I was able to then start to get into my rehab, which I did in the spinal unit after being transferred from the intensive care unit. There, I met other wheelchair users like myself, like I would become when I was getting up finally off of bed rest. And yeah, conversations I would have with what are essentially strangers wouldn't necessarily have been able to have with friends or family about what it's like, how they were feeling. in those early stages of rehab. One thing I suppose probably aided me is I've always been quite independent. I've always been quite determined, if a bit stubborn. And I mean, I was the only DJ really, that I didn't know any other DJs back in the day, but it was something that I wanted to do. So that's kind of a symbol of kind of me, I suppose, going out on my own. Really, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't have any other peers
Hmm.
that I could relate to about the DJ. But moving on, through into rehab. Just got stronger and stronger, more stubborn, more and quite independent. And
I love that. I love that word, stubborn. That's a great word to be in your position. Not not
yeah,
refusing to accept the situation you were in and fighting through. Bobby asks what mindset drove you. I think you're answering that perfectly. So carry on. Sorry.
I mean, I was determined to look for a cure. I couldn't believe that I'd be able to live the rest of my life in a chair. There must be a way, and obviously there hasn't been yet a miracle cure, so to speak. But I had heard rumors about this therapy in Mexico, which is a whole other story. It cost a lot of money to go out there, have the operation, and then have actually shark cells injected into my spine,
Right.
which were being used very early on, just before stem cells. And I later had stem cell injections after raising all this money, which took years and years. It took, well over a year. But come 22, 23, around the early 2000s, was 21, 20, 2001, 2002, had the money to do it, went out there, had this operation in Tijuana, literally just on the border, on the other side of the border of America.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a character. It's got character to it. I'll give it that much. 11-hour surgery, which is why I've got the scar on the back of my neck. I didn't actually get that from my initial injury operation. I got that, off from the surgery. Then I spent 2 months out there in California, in San Diego, having rehab and having these stem cell injections, which I, as a young 21, 22-year-old, was determined I would follow through and enable me to walk again. And all of the people that had raised money for me leading up to that, I mean, I had letters from people. I would always write back. At the fundraisers I'd have to give speeches at, and I promised everyone that I would do it for them, and I would come back and show them what their money had meant to me, what I'd been able to do with it. And I slowly started to realize that when I got back to the UK, and I was flying out there every 3 months just for the injection, the stem cell, and then back again, and rehabbing at home, physio every day, the effects were far slower than I thought they would be. I think I'd gotten a bit carried away with this kind of narrow-minded idea that to be able-bodied is everything,
Hmm.
and I couldn't imagine a life otherwise. And then I started to see my friends and my peers move on really with their lives around me, and I wasn't doing that with my own. And I started to change philosophy about life, that it's more important to do something with your life than to simply be able-bodied.
Hmm.
That's not the meaning of life. Just being able-bodied, you have to live it. There's so much to live for, and things I could still do. And the music, obviously, been there for me my whole life. It's been a dear friend. And although I couldn't DJ the music that I used to love, because trying to carry record boxes around, trying to put the needle on records, it was something I just didn't have the dexterity
So
to
it's
do.
so let me just ask you very quickly then. So you'd obviously lost the use of your legs.
Mhm.
Had the use of your arms and your upper body strength, did is that something that's improved over the years, or have you always been? Did you always have that upper body strength, so to speak, the movement in your arms from the beginning? So it was just the waist down where you had the issue.
It's been pretty much physically the same as it's always been.
Okay.
I don't have any hand function. I've kind of learned techniques through occupational therapy where it has to pick things up. Um, yeah, by sort of like pinching my finger and thumb together. Little techniques I learned in occupational therapy. Yeah, I have bicep function, but not tricep function,
Okay.
just because the level of the break. It's yeah, kind of weird it would seem, but I have limited arm function basically. And as I say, without the ability to use my fingers, trying to put vinyls back in sleeves and do things technically on turntables was never going to be possible. And then there was the CDJs, just weren't any much better for me really. So I decided I'd get into production,
Okay.
and that's when I started mucking about with sequences and arrangements.
So we'll come back. I want to put a time stamp on that production. But before we do that, I want to ask you about how do you feel your friends' attitude was towards you? Did they were they clearly they were very supportive, but did you notice a change in the way that people spoke to you? Did you feel that people were maybe being sometimes a little bit, because being someone very stubborn, did you find sometimes that maybe people were being a bit patronizing to you the way they were talking, or did you not come across that?
Yeah, I did. I'm not sure I knew how to handle it until my confidence had grown into my sort of mid 20s, late 20s, when I'd left hospital, when I was starting to get my life back together, back in the community, and I was starting to, I don't know, believe in myself a bit more. I can remember a few occasions, one in particular at the post office. I was with a friend. I asked for, I don't know, something to be sent or stamps at the counter, and the person behind the counter would look at my friend, ask them, you know, basically questions back that I was asking them. They were talking to them, although it was
Like
me
you were
speaking
invisible.
to them. Yeah, I had the same thing at the cinema once. Um, yeah, and
Yeah, I think
it makes
Ricky Gervais did a very has covered that very sarcastically in many sketches that he's done. The way that people would address people who are able-bodied people, and how would you describe yourself to somebody? Because I was very conscious, and when we spoke before, what words to use. Disabled, what are the right words to use, the not the right words to use.
um, yeah, I am disabled. I mean, I'm a wheelchair user. Perhaps sounds a little bit more appealing, really. But
Sexy.
yeah,
Okay. Right.
my
Okay.
friends would call me worse, I'm sure.
Okay. So right. Well, I just wanted to kind of get an idea of that, because how your friends and people in general would approach you would also have an effect on your own mental health, and the way that you perceived yourself, and your strength and your confidence. So you powered on through, and shout out to Rob Farrell, who's here, sending you a high five, and giving hearts, mainly Vocal Booth family. A lot of people who would have met you at Vocal Booth, who will have maybe not heard this story before. Do you find you, and we're going to get back to the producing, do you find you enjoy telling the story of that you were you used to be that person before, and have your accident, or do you tend to never tell the story?
I've been asked, a lot over the years, but it's not something that I tell that often. It's not something that um, until you tapped me up, Andy, and then you're asking some great questions, and you're bringing back memories that I'd forgotten about, and the details, they're kind of unraveling as we talk. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah. Sorry, I don't know. I've forgotten your question.
No, I was
Really.
just saying, do you, because it's not something where because we see each other a lot, we have seen each other a lot on an annual basis or in the UK or whatever, and then
Mm.
somehow you would have told me the story, which blew me away because you know, I would have just assumed that you were always in the wheelchair. So to hear that story many years ago, it totally astounded me. So I just wondered if you would ever tell that story to other people, and it's not something that people would be in a club and say, see, he's in that wheel, he hasn't always been in that wheelchair, you know. So it would be very, very surprising to a lot of people.
Yeah, actually, I imagine it would when we get together, at Vocal Booth Weekenders. Everyone's really just there more about the love for the music, and we don't always get into these kind of long conversations. I don't often, but yeah, as I say, talking to you, it brings back memories and just makes me, in some ways, kind of realize how far I've come. I mean,
Oh,
since
it's
my
incredible, mate.
injury 20 years ago.
I don't say it lightly, you know. I meet a lot of incredible people along the way, but you generally, ever since I met you, and that's why I've always gone out of my way to provide you the platform at Vocal Booth, because you're such a talented guy, and you know, one of my favourite moments at Vocal Booth around the poolside of the Monte Pietro Hotel. I get choked up just even thinking about it. And everyone comes round, and the applause at the end of your set, we wheel you round to the front of the crowd and everyone's around you. And I just remember feeling so proud of you, you know, as isn't condescending. I was just so proud, and I could see your face just lit up so much. You were fully immersed in that moment, and I knew it meant so much to you. And it was just great to have shared so many of those moments with you. And also
Yeah.
another funny story: being sat outside Zyro with you one night, and you'd had a few beers, and I was saying, "You all right, mate? How's it going? You okay?" And you were just like, "Yeah, I'm fine, fine." I said, "Do you want me to get you a taxi? Do you want me to get one of the doormen to take you home?" And you were sat there in your chair and you went, "No, it's all right, I'll walk." And I was just like,
Right.
that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I used to like that long walk back on my. I would say walk.
But
It's just the way, figure of
that's what I
speech.
mean. For
That
you to say that, it was brilliant.
that rollback, because the place that I've stayed most years um, is a pretty decent stroll. It's a good
Hmm.
10,
A bit,
15 minutes,
a bit
and
more,
it's
especially with a few
silent.
beers in you as
Beautiful.
well.
So yeah, yeah. Admittedly, yeah. I mean, I'm swaying all over the road a little bit, but there's not a car out. It's 5, 6 in the morning, whatever, and I like that. If I can be on my own when I get the opportunities to, occasionally I do like that. I like to kind of go off on my own. I've been doing that, in fact, since we started clubbing. When we'd go out together, it'd be like, "Where's Jay?" Because I liked going off and meeting people. You have those mad conversations. Whenever you're on what you're on, doing what you're doing in the
Yeah.
club, it's part of the magic.
Well, I'm sure there are people who have got lost, and in far worse states than you many times down the years in Campermore, and I am getting quite emotional thinking about Campermore. Okay, so let's roll back to you starting producing. You said you started messing around with the sequences. Did you have anyone to give you any pointers, or were you all totally self-taught?
I would try to latch onto people that seem to suggest they had some understanding of production, but I used to be able to play piano when I was a kid. I had some music theory to help me, but yeah, I just think with computers, technology, it's easy to adapt. It was easy for me to kind of set up a studio, very basic kind of setup, and then build from there. And MIDI keyboard, getting involved in the plugs. I'm not sure exactly how I learned, but I started to get my head around audio editing and looping, stuff like that. And yeah, just started messing about. Went back to college in 2005 to study music production, and it was there that I was starting to really shape my kind of house sound, you know, as a producer.
Hmm. Would you, and then you moved more towards the tribal sound for a while to some of the earlier productions.
That's right. Yeah, in around about 2000 14, 15, maybe it was about then. I had a random phone call with one of my peers, David Anthony, which you probably, you know, picked up some of his records. He's going really on that tribal sound. I
Hmm.
think he's gone back now to doing some kind of more soulful house stuff, the likes of Kathy Brown. I worked with a guy called Johnny Montana before that as well. Managed, you know, I was privileged to be able to remix the likes of Dawn Tallman was notable. And Natasha Watts did a remix on Sophia Rabina. Obviously, you know very well.
Hmm.
One of my kind of proudest record remixes was for Sophia Rabina. I'm very happy with that. And then the Afro sound I indulged in when I first saw Black Coffee perform. It was just, for me, I thought that was going to be a game changer. After kind of thinking that nothing was going to surprised me on the house scene when I heard him perform at Southport Weekender, and this Afro sound, you know, kind of come in. And I've moved back away from that again and back more to my roots now, my
Hmm.
sort of soulful and deep house.
The thing that blew me away about Black Coffee very, very quickly, I'm sure you'll relate to, is it was many, many years down the line that I realised he only had the use of one arm himself.
Likewise, yeah, yeah,
It just totally, totally blew me. It's been a long time since I've known that, but then to hear his story as well, and that I think that's the beauty of it. That yourself and him, that you don't play. You're not being given. It's not a charity that you're given the success. You've been out there and you've worked and strived for this for yourself. You haven't been given, tap on the head. Come on, wheeled in. Do what you're doing, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's just like this guy can kick some ass on that dance floor.
yeah. Well, I was expecting a lot of doors to close. The wheelchair DJ, I thought it would intimidate promoters. Um, but around 2005, 2006, I started to kind of network a little bit, and that's how I kind of bumped into the SS Radio crew, the likes of Matt Sims, Dave Jemison, and obviously DJ Wisey. And they accepted me with open arms. Never, you know, my disability was just something that was not seen,
Hmm.
and generally, you know, by the likes of you know, our fellow clubbers on the house scene. It's all about the love. Everybody's welcome,
Hmm.
and yeah, the promoters too. I mean, Matt and Dave, you know, they would hold their events for the SS Radio parties, and yeah, I would start, you know, to play for them and prove that I could do it. And then obviously, you know, we crossed paths eventually, and yeah, I've been very I'm very grateful that I've been welcomed with open arms. No one's been put off by the idea of getting me to play for them for whatever reason. If there's steps, if there's a stage, everyone's just been like, yeah, whatever, you
Very
know, we'll get you up
accommodating.
there.
I know. Philip Gill, Gilman Audio is a big fan of yours. He's always thoroughly enjoyed being stood by your side, watching you work your magic, and he's always gone above and beyond to make sure it all works for you and all of your friends here. Because I know Jason isn't actually seen the comments, but he will see them back on the recording. So Jane Harrington saying she remembers that infamous night at the pool. Bobby is saying she's been with you on one or two too many beer scenes. Carla was saying she's getting a lump in her throat. Is someone cutting onions? Yeah, I was on the verge of cracking myself once or twice there, if I'm honest. And Jane also says we've had some funny drunken moments. And Andrew McHugh is blaming you for getting her put to bed at One Beat Bunker. And who Dev? Hi Dev. Sorry, I don't think I said hello. He says they don't call him Doobie J for nothing. Yeah, Rosemary's giving the SS Radio guys a lot of love, as we should indeed. A great bunch. So the productions we talked about, and we spoke about your DJing. Uh, I mean, it's just an incredible story how you managed to, your stubbornness pulled you through, with clearly a great bunch of people by your side. How did your parents cope with it, and how did they help? Were they quite support? It probably sounds a daft question, but it's a question to ask. Were they very supportive of you, or could they have been more supportive?
Yeah, no, they were. I mean, my mum, I think, from my opinion, she saw it as an opportunity to kind of. Well, no, my mum's very protective of me and my sister, and she was there. I mean, for me, um, really wholeheartedly, she was doing anything she could for me. And I know it. Obviously, it broke her heart. It was very hard for her. My dad, he's always been this stiff upper lip kind of character. He's always encouraged me from an early age um, to probably to kind of do things on my own, I suppose, and I think that's probably where I got my determination
Mm-hmm.
from, quite a bit. My mum as well as also can be quite stubborn, but they were there for me, yeah, in their completely different ways. My mum kind of emotional, my dad less so, and I think I needed a kind of a mix of both of that.
Good, good, good. Ali and Nick says it's an honour to have you as our friend. Um,
Oh, sweet.
I I really could sit here and converse with you all evening, but I think we covered a lot of what I wanted to cover. Is there any big plans on the horizon for you? Clearly, you were probably shielding quite a lot at the beginning of the whole COVID scenario. Are you still having to shield now, or are you not within the shielding bracket?
No, no, not now. I've had both my jabs. I'm trusting in that, and I've been getting out and enjoying life as much as I can. A friend of mine, who he had his a couple of friends, they had milestone birthdays a couple of weeks ago, and had hired out a campsite. And there was I don't know how many was there, 20 or 30 of us. I mean, it all done, responsibly and whatever. But it was the first time I DJ'd to
Okay.
a dance floor, since the whole lockdown thing, and that was great. Yeah, just slowly, hopefully, starting to get back into that. Got a gig on the bank holiday weekend for Let's Love Life Festival. Grant Nelson will be headlining that, so it's always an honour to play on the bill with him, and just to be able to do what I do for the dance floors again, for the people.
Cool. And
Um,
your weekly
yeah.
citrus sound,
Say again.
the weekly citrus show.
And the radio, yeah. I mean, the Citrus Sound Show has been going now for over 15 years. I started that around 2005, 2006, and that's really been my anchor, and particularly through COVID and lockdown as well. Whereas I've had a way to be able to express myself through the music, still through the radio. I love it. Listeners from all parts of the world, and that's great. I'm really glad to be a part of their lives when they're tuning in weekly or picking up the podcast or playback.
Brilliant. So, pretty certain that everyone that's with us right now will know how they can find you. But anyone that's picking up this video, watching the recording, some pointers as to where people can come and check you out, hear your productions and hear your sounds. Just give us a couple of key links.
Yeah, I think my Mixcloud's good for my shows. That's mixcloud.com/Doobie J. I've got the Citrus Sound shows on there. I've also got a Feel Good Friday show I've been doing for about 3 years now, which is kind of me being able to express express my love of soul and funk music as I began to collect that over the last 10 years or so. And the Citrus Sound Show can be picked up on podcast, although I think there might have been some issues with that. But the mixcloud.com/DBJ, and productions, well, on TrackSource, my records are on there. If you search Doobie J.
Yeah, very, very, very great tunes. Some big tunes on there that I've definitely supported myself down the years. And if you can just lift up your t-shirt, give us a quick look at that.
Yeah, there it
Representing.
is.
There's my boy. There's my boy. And we'll be seeing him in October.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very excited about that, to see the family again. To get back together in the sunshine. Hopefully, we're going to have a little bit of that this weekend here in the UK. How's it out in Spain?
Oh, mate, it was 40 degrees yesterday. It's ridiculous.
Oh, oh, you're teasing me. Oh,
Absolutely ridiculous. But I
yeah,
shan't, give the sub story. It's nice. It is very nice. So,
yeah,
people at Katie is saying absolutely inspirational interview. That's the whole reason why we're doing this. So glad to learn more about the family. Malcolm in Sheffield says big love Doobie, one of the first to come over and welcome me to the VB crew. Johnny Al asking if you're coming to VB, and Rosemary, a humble inspirational guy, the wife says see you in October. And Carla, I think the likes of us lot and the whole music family, as we're also so many like-minded people, just like we don't see colouring people, we also don't see the wheelchair. It's just you. You are the most courageous man I know. That's
oh,
beautiful, mate.
I don't know. We've all got stories to tell,
We
you know,
have,
we all
we
have.
have.
And yeah, coming together as we do to celebrate life, celebrate music. For me, it's just the most important thing.
Beautiful. It's been truly emotional. As I said beforehand, I'm just going to say a few goodbyes. I thank you for your time, man, and we'll keep in touch. Obviously, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone.
Lovely.
Thank you, man. Really, truly
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Andy.
Okay, bro. Take care.
All right.
Wow. I was absolutely on the edge of breaking down throughout that conversation, but it would have been a little bit stupid of me, wouldn't it, really? But I'm sure you were all feeling the same. What a truly inspirational young gentleman. And yes, gonna be brilliant, isn't it, in October when we're all together. Did you enjoy that? Ignore all that. Right. Next up, next Tuesday, 7 p.m. UK time again. We're getting back into the swing of things with the Soulful House Mafia talks, and we're going to be talking to Deli G from Bristol and Rude Boy Rupert, talking all things London, Garage City, amongst many other things. So many of you liking the video, so many of you sharing it. Thank you very much. Everyone is saying thank you. There's a slight delay, so forgive me if I don't say thank you before I end. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to getting back into the swing of this. Many of you guys have your own inspirational stories, and I'm going to get around to talking to you soon enough. And if you've got any recommendations on who you would like to hear or see being interviewed live, then feel free to drop me a message. I am going to press a button, I think, and say goodbye to you. Thanks, guys. You know how much I love and appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your week.